Hello and welcome back to Koala Moon, children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. This is Camo the Chameleon's Swiftie Surprise by Luke Prendergast. Almost a year had passed since Camo the Chameleon organised Sleepy Forest's first ever Carnival of Colour. Looking back on it, it had been the most wonderful celebration. The whole thing had started because Camo had noticed that a lot of his school friends at Sleepy Forest Elementary School had a bit of a problem with self-esteem. Camo himself could see all of their remarkable and unique attributes, their gifts and talents and big, bold hearts, but none of them could. They lacked, in a word, pride. So, Camo had thrown a carnival in which everyone could perform and shine and show off their own specialness. And how special it had been. Not to mention that ever since Camo had noticed a perceptible increase in the levels of self-esteem in all the inhabitants of Sleepy Forest. Deep in his heart, he took some of the credit for that. That was something, after all, that he could be proud of. Last year, he'd thought the Carnival of Colour would be a one-time thing. But now, as the summer rolled around again, people started pestering him about having a new one. "Hey, Camo," his friend Koko would say as they sat in Camo's grotto room, listening to Swiftie songs on his radio. "Have you decided on a date for the carnival this year?" "Oh yes," piped up Prickles. "I haven't seen any of the posters for it yet. You'll have to put some up soon so that people know when to get ready for." Camo would have to shush them because they were speaking over the songs. And no one, Camo thought, should ever speak over a Swiftie song. Other times, classmates would come up to him in school and tell him they'd been working extra hard on proving their particular talents in preparation for the carnival. "Look how long I've learnt to stretch my neck," said Twiga the giraffe, snipping a leaf off the tallest tree. "Look at my woodwork," said Chuck the chipmunk, presenting Camo with a little toy house painted in all the colours of the rainbow. It seemed, after all, that there was no choice in the matter. If the residents of Sleepy Forest wanted another Carnival of Colour, then who was Camo to deny them that? He must give the people what they wanted. The show must go on. It was certainly easier the second time round, because they'd done it all before. Camo went to Miss Bushytail, the coolest teacher in the whole school, a dazzling squirrel with a big bushy tail who'd made all the costumes for the parade last year. "Why, Camo, of course I'll help you out again," she said. "You leave it with me." Next, he went down to the banks of the Sleepy River where Penny, the pigeon's postal delivery office, stood, a wooden hut painted bright white. Penny herself was perched on the roof, her iridescent feathers flashing purple and green, and when she spotted Camo, she flew down to meet him. "Don't worry about it, Camo," she told him. "You want leaflets delivered to all the residents of Sleepy Forest? It's done. Don't spare another thought on it. Ooh." And when he popped down to Boba's magical bubble tea shop to ask him to make some bubble teas for the event, Boba simply fanned himself with a bright pink leaf and told Camo he was one step ahead of him. "Look," Boba said, pointing towards some multicoloured tapioca balls. "I've already started on a special Carnival of Colour bubble tea flavour. It's got every colour of the rainbow in it." Well, it seemed like everyone had the Carnival of Colour under control. This year, there was barely anything that Camo needed to do to prepare for it, which was just what he wanted, because he had a special surprise of his own brewing. "What's your surprise, Camo?" Koko asked him. Camo replied. His lips were sealed. "Tell us, please," urged Prickles. Camo shook his head. "No way." "Oh, come on," said Koko. "We're your best friends. We won't tell anybody." "Oh, okay then," Camo said. He could never keep a secret from Koko and Prickles for long. And anyway, in his heart of hearts, Camo wanted to tell someone about his big idea. So, in a hushed voice, he told them all about it. "I want to do something extra special this year," Camo whispered. "So, I was thinking that at the end of the Carnival of Colour, we could have a stage set up and a big musical performance." "Oh," Prickles sighed. "I love a concert." "Who's going to perform?" Koko asked. "Why," said Camo, blinking from one of them to the other. "Me, of course." Koko and Prickles broke out into great shining smiles. That sounded like a brilliant idea, they agreed. "I just need a little help to get prepared," Camo told them. "From who?" they asked. Camo raised his eyebrows. "From Madame Flutterdust," he said. Madame Flutterdust was an old but rather glamorous butterfly with spangled translucent wings of blue and purple and pink. She had once been something of a minor celebrity, touring not only this world, but all the other worlds that exist as a stage actor. But since her retirement, she had settled back into her homeland of Sleepy Forest, where she organised all kinds of theatrical events, plays and musical recitals, pantomimes and dance shows. Madame Flutterdust's list of talents was practically endless. But that meant she had extremely high standards too. No matter their age or experience, when it came to the performers in any of her shows, she expected the very best. She would not take any less than 100%. Camo had acted in some of Madame Flutterdust's plays before, but she had never heard him sing. And so it was with some trepidation that Camo approached her treehouse studio one afternoon. The studio was nestled up in the branches of a weeping willow tree, so that the curtains of its drooping branches enveloped and veiled it like a cocoon. Camo had to part the leaves and step under the shade of the willow tree, and then begin to climb the long flower-tangled vine that fell from Madame Flutterdust's door all the way down to the floor. As Camo climbed, he realized that his chameleon skin was turning exactly the same color as the willow tree's bark, a kind of silvery brown. His skin tended to do that, change hue to match his surroundings, whenever he was feeling shy or nervous, as though it were helping him to blend in and not stand out. But Camo knew that it was important, even when you were nervous, not to be ashamed or embarrassed of who you were. So he turned his skin into a bold and glimmering gold, which was the colour he put on when he was trying his hardest to be brave. Camo reached the top of the flowery vine and knocked on the studio door. "Yes?" called out a small, rustling voice. "Come in." Camo opened the door and stepped inside. Madame Flutterdust was reclining on a blue velvet chaise longue, her wings rippling gently in the breeze that had snuck in through the open door. The studio was pleasantly cool, soft sunlight spilling in through the windows and reflecting like liquid gold off the mirrors that ran along one wall. Seeing him, Madame Flutterdust rose from her chaise longue. "Camo, my darling," she said, enfolding him in her silky embrace. "To what do I owe the pleasure of a visit from the finest actor Sleepy Forest has produced since the days of, well, yours truly?" And she gave a little twirl in the air. Camo took a deep breath and told Madame Flutterdust his plan. She listened closely as he spoke, with no expression passing over her face, though she did from time to time give a tiny little nod, as though to say, "I understand. Continue." When he finished, she gave her wings a little rustle. "Very good," she said. "I approve wholeheartedly of the plan. But what, pray, does it have to do with me?" "Well," said Camo, pawing at the ground with the tip of his toe, "I would like you to help me rehearse it so it's just right." "Ah," Madame Flutterdust sighed. "Very good. Well, what are you going to sing?" "I'd like to sing a medley," Camo told her, "by my favourite singer, Swiftie." Madame Flutterdust nodded. "A very good choice," she said. "Well then, sing." Camo blinked at her. "Sing?" he repeated. "Yes," Madame Flutterdust said. "Sing. I need to see what we're working with." She gave a flap of her wings and landed lightly back on her chaise longue, looking at him unblinkingly. "Well," she said, "sing. We do not have all day." Camo felt nervous. What if Madame Flutterdust thought his voice was no good? What if she said she didn't want to help him? But he pushed these worries back down and instead drew a big reserve of courage up from his heart. He closed his eyes. He sang. And when he opened his eyes, Madame Flutterdust was nodding. There might even have been a little twinkle of a smile hovering around her eyes. "We can work with that," she said. From then on, Camo went every day to Madame Flutterdust's studio to rehearse his musical set. He didn't let Koko and Prickles come with him, even though they begged. "Nuh-uh," he said. "I want to keep just a small element of surprise." Madame Flutterdust made him sing and sing and sing. And any time he made even a small mistake or she believed his heart wasn't truly in it, she would clap her wings together and make him stop. "From the beginning again," she would say, "and this time with feeling." Sometimes Camo found this frustrating. She stopped him so often he worried that he was a hopeless case. Was he completely useless? Perhaps he was never going to get better. But then, gradually, he did. He noticed it. Madame Flutterdust noticed it. More and more often, he was able to make it to the end of the song without her stopping him. And afterwards, she would give him a pitter-patter of wing-beat applause and say things like, "Oh, bravo, mon petit protégé." Camo wasn't exactly sure what it meant, but it made him feel warm and fuzzy inside nonetheless. On days like that, he would hurry back through Sleepy Forest to the little clearing with the swing set where he met Koko and Prickles. He could never wait to tell them what Madame Flutterdust had said. But one afternoon, he got there and they weren't there, which was very strange indeed. He had to sit on the swing alone, going back and forth for almost an hour before they turned up, looking rather suspicious if you asked him. "Where have you two been?" he asked them. "What have you been up to?" But they wouldn't tell him. "We have secrets and surprises of our own," Koko said with a cheeky little grin. And then he hopped on the swing next to Camo and sent them soaring back and forth, so high they thought the tips of their toes might touch the setting of the sun. And so it wasn't long before the day of Sleepy Forest's second Carnival of Colour was upon them. The parade would commence, just as it had the year before, at the gates of Sleepy Forest Elementary School, and Camo was there waiting, along with Miss Bushytail and Koko and Prickles, as the citizens of Sleepy Forest all started to turn up. And didn't they look wonderful? Hippopotami in sequined jackets and spangly hats, ponies with dashes of face paint and racing stripes painted on their backs, a troop of chimpanzees who Miss Bushytail had helped fashion lustrous white wings out of wire and wax and feathers. Creatures came with trumpets and drums, with flutes and feather boas. They came with banners and tambourines. Camo threw his arms around Miss Bushytail. "Thank you ever so much," he said, "for organising the carnival this year, miss. It looks brilliant, but I'm not going to be able to join you on the march. I'll have to head off and prepare for my big show, which will start as soon as you reach the stage." "Wonderful, Camo," she replied with a swish of her tail. "You leave it with me." Camo gave Koko and Prickles a hug too and told them he couldn't wait to see them later. "Break a leg," they told him. And then, rather mysteriously, Koko added, "And keep one eye on the sky." "On the sky?" Camo asked. "What does that mean?" But Koko just gave him a curious smile and waved him goodbye. One eye on the sky, Camo thought to himself as he scurried through the forest. That must be something to do with that secret Koko and Prickles had been keeping from him, whatever it could be. At last, Camo arrived at the stage that had been erected at the edge of the sleepy river. The forest glade had been decorated with fairy lights and glinting gemstones, and already on the stage the band of raccoons were tuning up their guitars. "That's it," Madame Butterfly said, fluttering from one raccoon to the other. "That's right, but, oh dear darling, you, I'm afraid, are rather flat." She turned and saw Camo climbing up the stairs of the stage and enveloped him once again in her wings. "Mon chéri," she said, "how are we feeling?" "A little nervous," Camo admitted. "But more than anything, I can't wait to show everyone the hard work we've been putting in. I hope everyone enjoys having a dance." "I have absolutely no doubt they will," Madame Flutterdust said. "And don't forget, Camo, that our nerves can give us the buzz we need to soar." And with that, she took off to find a perch on the silver tree. Camo stood on the stage, waiting for the carnival to arrive. He warmed up his voice and sang a few notes, and hummed along to the chords the raccoons were strumming. They seemed to be taking ever so long, time stretching out like a long piece of elastic. In fact, Camo was beginning to wonder if they'd gone the wrong way when he heard a trembling on the ground. It was like a small but happy earthquake, rattling the stage and shaking the leaves on the trees. The sounds of hundreds of forest creature footsteps marching along in the parade. Then he heard their chants echoing through the trees. And then he saw the first glittering signs of their sequined costumes appearing between the trunks. "Are we ready?" he called out to his bandmates. The raccoons twanged their guitars enthusiastically in response. Camo took his place in front of the microphone. He took a deep breath, he closed his eyes, and he began to sing. Time seemed to bend and stretch, because when he opened his eyes again, the forest glade was filled with carnival goers, dressed up in all colours of the rainbows, clapping their hands and cheering and shaking it off as Camo sang his song. He sang better than he'd ever sung before, shimmying this way and that across the stage, pointing the microphone out to the crowd so that they could sing the chorus. He threw his head back so that he was looking up into the sky. And that's when he saw it. At first, he thought it was an early evening star, a speck of gold in the sky. But then it came closer and closer. It got bigger and bigger, and Koko's mysterious words swam back into his mind. "Keep one eye on the sky." As whatever the flying object was got closer and closer, Camo could see a rush of golden feathers, a bright yellow beak, a sequined dress, and cowboy boots. His eyes went wide. He couldn't believe it. It couldn't possibly be, could it? But it was. A moment later, Swiftie herself landed on the stage right beside him. She smiled a big, bright smile and held her own microphone to her lips, singing along with him. Camo couldn't believe it. He was actually singing with Swiftie herself. He felt as though he might almost melt. "Surprise, Camo," Swiftie said, and the crowd cheered. She folded him into a soft hug, and Camo felt a tear come to his eye. "Let's sing the rest of the medley together," Swiftie said. "You and me." Camo raised the microphone back to his lips. His skin was flashing silver and gold, red and pink and orange, all of the colours of joy and happiness. And what else could he do? He sang. The rest of the Carnival of Colour went by in a blur. He finished singing his set with Swiftie, autumn leaves falling around them, stars twinkling out in the approaching night sky. And once they were finished singing, Swiftie came into the crowd with him, and they danced with Koko and Prickles and with all the other carnival goers too. Camo got to ask Swiftie all of the questions he'd ever imagined asking her, like how she gets inspiration for her songs, which her favourite is, and how often she practiced playing the guitar. "This is a dream come true," he told her. "I'm your biggest fan." "Well, after seeing you perform on that stage," Swiftie replied, "I'm your biggest fan too. You're going places, Camo. I can tell." Madame Flutterdust was next to him when Swiftie said this, and he believed he saw tears coming to her eyes as she nodded, bowed to Swiftie, and fluttered away. As far as Camo was concerned, Those words coming from Swiftie made him happier than he could ever even begin to describe. Maybe one day, he thought to himself, he'd try to write a song about this day. At the end of the carnival, Swiftie gave him another big hug and flew off into the night sky. Camo and Koko and Prickles watched her go, waving, until she was just another star shining up above them. Then Camo threw his arms around his two best friends. That was the best surprise ever, he told them. Thank you, thank you. I can't believe I have friends like you. You deserve it, Camo, Prickles said with a smile. We wanted to make the Carnival of Colour an extra special day for you, just like you make it an extra special day for everybody. Camo smiled gratefully. But how did you do it? He asked them. How did you get Swiftie herself, to come to the carnival? Ah, said Koko, tapping his nose. Some secrets stay secrets forever. And with that, the three friends began to make their way home through the forest. They walked between the silver trees, with the rustling of leaves overhead chattering about the carnival. But as they walked, their chattering turned gradually to yawns and rubbed eyes as they got more and more tired. They waved goodbye to Prickles when they reached his home, and then a few minutes later, Camo gave Koko a hug outside his family's cozy cabin. And Camo walked the last little way back to his grotto alone. Alone, of course, except for the sighing trees who watched over him, and the owls hooting gently in the trees, making sure that he made his way safely. At last, Camo arrived at his grotto. He gave his parents a kiss goodnight, brushed his teeth, washed his face, and crept into bed. Usually, Camo would read a book until he fell asleep. But tonight he didn't feel like it. His mind was too full of wonderful, blissful memories, and he wanted to cherish them. So he lay in the dark in his bedroom and remembered how Swiftie had dropped out of the sky like a fallen star, and how she had sung with him and shimmied and hugged him and told him that he would go somewhere. And you know what? He believed her when she said it. Camo sighed. Perhaps today was one of the happiest days of his life. It was certainly one that he would always remember. And so, with his eyes closed, he smiled a soft sigh of contentment and drifted off into a deep and peaceful sleep. While somewhere high above him, Swiftie flew home through the sky, glittering with the stars all around her.